Hello and welcome to another edition of ProtoBalls Talk. I'm ProtoMet.
I'm the other one.
So we're shaming him now. He's
Yeah.
not even allowed to say
Not
whatever
even
his
allowed
name
to
is.
say my name. It's just the other one now.
And today we will be talking about Monty Python's The Life of Brian.
It's alright. It's only a model, though.
See you next time, folks.
Yep. Boy, that was a great review, don't you think?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. We got it done a lot quicker. I don't know why we didn't do this sooner.
God damn, I don't know why it took us so long to get this review done.
Like a whole month.
A whole month, just for
We
40...
should have just bit the bullet and done it that much. Well, see you next month.
Yeah, I'll see you...
Sorry. Next 2 months.
Next
2 months from now.
Yeah, it'll take us 2 months to do another review anyways. Yeah, Life of Brian. What 1979 it came out. Jesus Christ. God, that's...
And it came out amid a bit of controversy.
Only to the Catholics. To fucking... are stupid and don't get subtext.
I find it pretty goddamn hilarious that the Catholics proved the film's point.
Exactly.
Like, for context, the Life of Brian is kind of a send-up of religion without actually being offensive to any one specific religion. It's more like how people who are religious have a tendency to blow things out of proportion and get a little too fanatical over differences of opinions. And the character Brian is modeled as being similar, but not the same, definitely not the same as Jesus, who actually is in the movie.
He actually is in the movie, and he's like at the beginning of the movie, not the near. Actually, he is in the near beginning, and like the early part of the movie.
And every scene that Jesus shows up in, which is very few, he's treated with quite a bit of respect. I mean, he's not...
He gives the fucking Sermon on the Mount. I don't know how the Catholic Church can say this is mocking Jesus Christ when Jesus Christ himself is in the movie giving the Sermon on the Mount, which is where the beginning of the film is framed.
I'm going to assume that they just immediately saw Brian, assumed that he was a parodic allegory for Jesus, and just started lambasting the movie as making fun of Jesus, even though that's not what happened at all.
The point basically the point of the movie is religion is kind of bullshit because its followers will literally come up with whatever suits their narrative,
Even at the expense of the religious figure itself.
They come up with their own interpretations
Of literally everything, no matter how minute.
Yeah,
It's kind of like theory channels on YouTube these days.
pretty much. They're whatever. Fine. I don't know. If you're if you're religious, whatever. I don't care. But like,
For the record, I am atheistic.
I am also atheist. Burn us at the stake if you must. Who cares?
I mean, all you're doing is producing a corpse and sinning.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Murder is a crime.
Murder is a crime.
Not that stopped you.
Hey now, murder is a crime in 12 states, I'll have you know. Only 12. Minnesota just happens to be one of them. Not in Texas or in Florida. That's perfectly legal.
So the gist of the movie is that this random guy, Brian, kind of gets caught up in a huge movement against his will and becomes a religious figure for a bunch of people who are just so desperate for a messiah they'll take literally anyone, even if the guy doesn't even want the job.
Yep. Pretty much. The movie kind of takes a while to get to the point.
But it is filled with jokes.
It is filled with pretty good jokes. I don't know, with Monty Python, you know, after Holy Grail, you know, it's just like, thanks, I don't really care anymore.
To be fair, this movie was far more focused on telling its story than just randomly making jokes, which they still do.
They still do, yeah. Movie. It's just, I don't know, it's a more narrative-focused Monty Python film. So, make that what you will. And then, God, I really don't want to get into meaning of life yet. That's a whole that's a whole other can of worms, and I don't really. Spoiler alert! I don't really like Meaning of Life. It's one of those. It's one of the Monty Python films that I just don't like.
So let's get into the plot now that we've kind of drug our feet.
It's Christmas Eve.
The original Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Before Christmas was even a thing.
Turns out, bada bing, bada boom, Brian's been born. The 3 wise men come, and and Brian's mother tries to kick him out first, and
until she finds out they have gold, frankincense, and myrrh, whatever those last 2 are.
Yeah, what the fuck? She'll take the gold. Don't know about the frankincense or myrrh. Until the 3 wise men realize, oh shit, we're in the wrong house.
So that should be a good indicator for anybody actually watching the movie that this movie isn't about Jesus.
Yeah. Like, they literally, like...
They give them the stuff, some stuff happens, they leave, but once they realize...
they take the stuff back once they realize they're in the wrong place, and they go to the actual manger where Jesus was born. And then we cut to the future, where Jesus is giving the Sermon on the Mount. Hey, Catholics, this movie's not about Jesus. He just happens to be in the movie.
Yeah, it's like saying that Guardians of the Galaxy is about Howard the Duck. He shows up in one scene right at the very end.
Wait, what the fuck? Howard the Duck is canon?
Yes! He's actually made a few more appearances since then. For the record...
What?
For the record, Howard the Duck is already a Marvel character. He was not created by George Lucas.
What?
Excuse me, Barry here is having an existential crisis.
Fucking hell.
I was not expecting this when
I did not know that, okay? All I know is Howard the Duck is a fucking terrible movie. And George Lucas is an awful director. I'm sorry. Outside of American Graffiti and literally A New Hope, the only 2 films that he was actually good at, he's fucking terrible as a director. Howard the Duck and The Phantom Menace should be pretty well enough to show George Lucas's directorial abilities.
As an aside, since we're on the topic of Howard the Duck, did you know that the creator of Howard the Duck lost the rights to the character from Marvel, and then staged a whole elaborate crossover thing, and kind of stole his character back while leaving Marvel with a duplicate?
Yeah, pretty much. I knew about that.
That's such a friggin' hilarious story.
I know he lost the copyright and then just sort of like legally hocus pocus his way back into getting it. So yeah.
And that's canon to the comics too.
Anyways, now that analogy's out of the way.
And went on for a lot longer than I anticipated it being.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Jesus is giving the Sermon on the Mount. And the joke of the scene is not, oh, Jesus is giving the Sermon on the Mount. He's not the joke. The joke is the people who can't hear him.
And they kind of end up getting into an argument with each other over what the guy's even saying.
Exactly.
And what they end up calling each other.
Something about the dude's wife or whatever.
Also, one of them has a big nose, apparently.
One of them has a big nose. Blah, blah, blah-bitty-blah.
The point is that they're clearly not actually paying attention to the message, despite themselves.
Exactly. And Brian and his mom
are just kind of there watching, but they're on their way to the stoning.
Oh yeah, there's a stoning.
Brian's Brian's mom puts on her beard because women aren't allowed.
Women aren't allowed to go to stonings. This is apparently an ancient Judean law.
The irony being that the majority of the audience are women.
Oh god,
beards.
it's all women. It's all the Monty Pythons and several other characters just having like the fakest beard.
Like it's pretty obvious.
Anyway, the guy being stoned has been accused of saying the name Jehovah, which is punishable by death. And like the guy, funnily enough, he's like, I don't see what the problem is with saying the name Jehovah.
And then they start stoning him.
They start. Yeah, somebody throws a stone, and the head priest, he's like, all right, stop it, knock it off. All right, that's it. You back of the line, and he spirals out of control, and he's finally like, nobody is supposed to say Jehovah, and then they all start throwing stones at him. Good bit of turnabout there, but this is of course during the time of Roman occupation of.
I mean, Jesus is on the mount.
Jesus on the mount. This is the time of Roman occupation of Judea, which was a whole other can of worms, and was very. The film is not wrong in saying that the Judean people were not appreciative of the Romans. And
I'd make a joke here, but this movie already did later on.
Yeah. yeah, it did. Yeah, just about.
I don't want to spoil that one just yet.
Although, in fairness, a bit of historical background to this, you probably won't care about this.
You're the expert.
The reasons the Judeans did not like the Romans is the Romans were Hellenistic. They believed in like all the various sorts of gods, and to the Romans, worshipping the gods is sort of an open affair. You know, they believe that to worship a god you have to do it openly, and with the Jews they do it in their temples behind closed doors, and they have their rituals that they again keep behind closed doors, and there's certain priests that are only allowed to worship spread the word of the gods.
Because as we all know, omnipotent beings can only hear you if you're in a specific
exactly, and so the Romans sort of see that as suspicious, and for the Roman Empire at the time, that's not really how do I word it?
It's not kosher.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. It's a very reasonable concern to be concerned about people, having meetings behind closed doors where Romans are not allowed to enter. If that makes sense, because you don't know if they're conspiring against the state.
Right.
So, it's a very tumultuous time, and needless to say, Judea would be under Roman control until around the 700s, 800s, when the Muslims would finally snatch it from the Eastern Roman Empire. So that's a little bit of background, and so by then, Rome was Christian. It was fully Christian.
Is that why it's called Roman Catholic?
Yeah, that's why it's called Roman Catholic. Well, it's called Roman Catholic because when Christianity first started, there were 6 popes, basically 6 popes, and the reason it's called.
And then Highlander happened. There can be only one.
Yes, exactly. Basically the Roman seat broke off from all the other ones, and so that's where Roman Catholic comes in. And then there's Eastern Orthodox, which is, hey, we've got all the rest. And of course, needless to say, there's also the fucking Coptic Church, Armenian Church, fucking...
The Protestants,
Lutherans, the Ethiopian Church. Christianity's, needless to say...
incredibly splintered.
Incredibly splintered, and that's the point that Life of Brian is trying to make.
Because despite worshipping the same deity, none of them can seem to agree on how to do that.
Despite worshipping the same deity, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all seem to have major fundamental violent outbreaks against each other. The Jews being the biggest victims of them, frankly. Anyway, so yeah, Sermon on the Mount, blah blah blah. They go to the stoning. Stoning's done. And
at some point, Brian expresses his interest in his
brother
about his interest in joining just any one of the anti-Roman groups in the region.
And we come to find out that Brian is...
Which are kind of in and of themselves also an allegory for Catholicism.
Yep. Yeah, and then, we find out Brian's actually the son of a Roman centurion.
So again, not Jesus!
Exactly. It's just... Did you ever watch that video of the... I believe it's the Bishop of Canterbury and another well-known Catholic priest debating with Eric Idle and Tom Cleese?
I don't know. Maybe
that was another thing. Like, they went on television and like debated the merits of the film, and the Catholic priest was like, "Oh, this is making fun of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ." And Eric Idle and Tom Cleese are like, "For the last time, it's not. He's in the film. This is about a man who just happens to be considered a Messiah to these people. It's not about Jesus Christ." It's a very fascinating watch in just how these two folks are very... He calls I can't remember the guy's name, but he calls the film trash. And it's like, I don't think it's that bad. I wouldn't call it trash. I mean, I wouldn't call it a masterpiece. I think it's a very fine film in of itself. I don't think it's trash. Yeah. And,
it's literally the case of them judging a book by its cover.
Yeah, really. And, the guy apparently had watched the film, and he's...
Kind of like people who actually follow Catholicism.
He did not get the subtext at all. Yeah, we have a problem with the Catholic Church. It's very corrupt, and,
I just love making fun of it as best I can.
Yeah, who doesn't these days?
I mean, if you can't laugh at your own faults, laugh at the Catholic Church.
They've got enough problems as is. I don't think they need us laughing at it. Anyway.
That's why it's so funny, though!
Anyway, yeah, like, Brian runs off, and he goes to the Roman Colosseum, where this guy just fucking...
Gladiator just running around trying to not be killed.
Yeah, so there's a prisoner who's thrown into the gladiator fight, which does not happen, by the way, I should mention. Most prisoners are fed to lions. Gladiators fight other gladiators, and not to the death, as some people think. Gladiators were basically boxers of their day. Let's get that out of the way. They did not kill each other because first off, gladiators are fucking expensive, and who are you gonna fucking replace them with if they die? They were pretty much like the wrestlers and boxers of their day. Wrestlers is probably a better allegory, because it was a lot more physical than boxing. So, yeah, this slave is thrown in with this gladiator, and the gladiator, he's all fucking dropped
decked to the nines, as it were.
And the slave just starts running away.
So the gladiator chases him.
And eventually, the gladiator dies.
From a heart attack, because of exertion, from chasing the dude. And the dude and the peasant dude wins.
Yeah, just what the fuck. But then what was the joke? So then we meet is it the People's Front of Judea or the Judean People's Front?
I don't know, and we should probably be certain on this, otherwise they're going to hate us for misidentifying them.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I'm almost confident there's a joke
it's the People's Front of Judea.
I'm almost confident there's a joke in the movie where they actually forget which one of the various liberation fronts they are.
Yeah. I know there... Hold on.
Like, they mention a bunch of other different groups who are all trying to do the exact same thing they are. But they hate them because they're a different group.
Yeah, it's...
Kind of like the Catholic Church.
Yeah, so it's the People's Front of Judea. And, there's a joke, inside the group with Stan, one of the characters, who...
He wants to be a woman. Good for him.
Which I think... it's played for laughs, but I think it's legitimately the first transgender character in film history.
I can't refute that claim, so let's go with it.
Yeah, it's one of the earliest transgender roles. And I should note, it's played for laughs.
And yet, they still acknowledge that...
They still acknowledge it!
Like, they still acknowledge that this character wants to be a woman now, and so throughout the rest of the movie, they do their damnedest to recognize that he is now a woman.
Yeah. But yes, the People's Front of Judea. They do not like the Judea People's Front. Lousy bastards.
I remember at one point, they single out just one guy sitting in the stands as being from the other group, and they're like, Splitest!
I can't remember what the group's name was, but yeah, it's like, they point out one guy who's like in his own group, and he's
just sitting there,
just sitting
minding
there.
his own business.
Split, you freaking Splitest! Oh man, this movie goes places.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like Brian is a vendor there, and he joins the group because he's like, oh, I hate the Romans, you know, and they're like, what have the Romans ever done for us?
That's a later scene. Though.
That's a later scene, but they hate the Romans. They just, you know.
But it is also in this scene that Brian is introduced to a lady by the name of Judith.
Yeah, Judith.
Whom he grows quite fond of. Wink.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more.
What are you trying to say?
Have you ever had sex?
Yes.
What's it like?
That's not from this movie, but
it's not from that one. It is Monty Python. Yeah. So he joins the group, and they go to this hideout, and like they're talking about a big plan. Big plan.
Don't they give Brian a task to do first?
Yeah, they give Brian a little bit of a task here.
To basically just that night go to one of the Roman buildings and graffiti it the hell out of it. And Brian gets caught by one of the guards.
And
who is very upset at his incorrect spelling and grammar.
God, let me be honest. Brian's Latin is terrible. It's about as good as mine.
So, despite the fact that he's graffitiing a building with basically telling the Romans to get out of Dodge, this guy is more concerned with Brian's vocabulary and grammar than what he's actually writing.
And so they spend the entire night making sure it's correct as he's writing it all over this temple. And
then the next morning they let Brian go.
And the next morning they let Brian go. He climbs down the ladder, and the guy's like, "Right, now don't ever do it again." And they walk off. And Brian looks at his work, and he's got a smile on his face. And a couple of other guards show up. And he turns to them with a big smile on his face, and he realizes, "Ah, shit!" And the chase is on. Pretty much.
I've watched Big Bad Beetleborgs recently. That's where that's from. That's why that was in my head.
What the fuck? But yeah, he actually manages to make an escape.
And he rejoins the
People's Front of Judea.
And not the Judean People's Front.
Yes. We'll call them the PFJ for now. People's Front of Judea, the PFJ. Anyways.
I don't know why, I just felt like I needed to do that.
Anyway, like, so yeah, they're talking about this big plan, and they're planning on kidnapping Pontius Pilate's wife.
But first, they have to determine, what have the Romans ever done for us?
Let's see here. What have the Romans ever done for us?
The aqueducts.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, but aside from the aqueducts, what have the Romans ever done for us?
Public health care.
Okay, aside from the aqueducts and public health care, what have the Romans ever done for us?
All right.
The joke goes on for quite a bit longer than that. Watch the movie for the full version.
All right. But apart from the sanitation, the medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, a fresh water system, and public health, what have the Romans ever done for us?
Nothing!
Brought peace. Oh, shut up! Yeah. So they're gonna sneak in to the
the palace, let's call it?
Yeah, we'll call it a fortress, palace. They're gonna sneak in through, like, the sewers. And so they make it in. And all of a sudden, they come across the Judean People's Front.
We're doing the exact same thing as them. So both groups decide that they must fight to the death.
Yeah, exactly. They don't decide to work together. They decide to fight one another.
Like, they literally have the exact same goal, and their pigheadedness over being in different groups causes them to kill each other.
Sounds like a religion in a nutshell.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Was that too far? I don't care. Anyway.
Leaving Brian the sole survivor. It's when the guards show up.
Yep. And Brian's just like, fuck, this is not my day.
So he has to beat a hasty retreat.
And he's caught. He's caught. And thrown in the dungeons, where he meets the most fucking ingrateful prisoner I have ever seen.
I thought that was later in the movie.
No,
okay.
That's after this.
Okay.
Because he's in the palace, right? And all the other guys are dead around him, and he's caught by the guards, and he has nowhere to run. So he's fucking stuck in hell. So
he's held in a holding cell with a dude who's hung up. Upside down, is he? He's definitely strung up. And he's complaining about how easy Brian has it.
Yeah. It's just...
And he wishes the guards would remember that he needs to be punished instead, too. The nerve.
This guy fucking goes on and being like, you don't fucking deserve anything. You know? And he's like super thankful to the Romans for like keeping him prisoner. And whatnot. Like, okay, he's a masochist. The guy's a masochist.
Reminds me of that one character from Little Shop of Horrors. You know, the one played by Jack Nicholson and Bill Murray?
Yes. That one.
Yes, that one scene. Side tangent. I hate the fact that most home media releases of the original The Little Shop of Horrors practically bill Jack Nicholson as being the star of the film when he's in literally one scene.
I mean, it is Jack Nicholson, though.
Yes, but he's not the star of the movie. He's in literally one scene. Maybe two. Mostly one, though.
Hey, he's getting paid by the word. So he must be the star. Little Shop of Horrors was what? 85?
That was the remake. The original was in like 60-something.
Oh, you're talking about the original.
Yeah,
okay.
no. Bill Murray played that character in the remake.
Yeah, I was thinking if it's 85, dude's getting paid by the word, probably. I mean,
Nope, this was the original Roger Corman movie.
Yeah.
The one that didn't have musical numbers. Go check out that movie. It's pretty goddamn funny.
While you're at it, if you want to watch another 60s horror movie, watch The Haunting. Magnificent psychological film.
I don't think I've seen that one, but I have seen House on Haunted Hill.
House on Haunted Hill is also really good. But as long as we're not talking about the fucking remakes.
I never said anything about the remakes.
Good.
It's a price all the way, man.
Another side tangent, The Haunting remake. One of the most... How do I word it? It is one of the biggest rapings of an original movie I have ever seen.
Tell us how you really feel.
It's like Cat in the Hat.
Oof.
Yeah.
I think I felt that all the way to the pit of my stomach.
It's that level of raping the original material and just, like, fucking it while it's a corpse. You've killed it and you're still fucking it. What is wrong with you? It's gone into necrophilia territory, and that's not okay.
Necrophilia is never okay.
You made me look bad, and that's not good. Anyways. Yeah.
What were we talking about again?
Oh, yes, Brian's taken to Pontius Pilate.
Brian got to meet a pilot?
Yeah.
Good for him. Should thank him next time I see him.
So, this is, like, the most famous scene in the movie.
Pilate has a pronounced lisp that barely anybody else, that he barely notices, but everybody else can't help but notice. To the point where they just start snickering anytime he says something that results in him lisping. And he gets increasingly pissed off at it.
Throw him to the floor, Centurion! What?
Sorry, what?
Throw him to the floor! Ah! The rascal has little daring do. 5:15, sir. Anyway. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Pontius Pilate is played by Eric Idle.
No.
Michael
Palin.
Michael Palin. I'm sorry. I get those two confused all the time because they're my two favorites.
Fair point.
But yeah, Michael Palin plays it so fucking great.
He plays the role completely straight while everybody else is starting to crack up around him.
And there's the whole rumor that's gone around regarding that scene, regarding like the extras.
I think that's actually the later scene.
I'm pretty sure it was this scene, because it's the biggest Dickus scene. If you know what we're talking about. Apparently, the extras were hired as guards, and they were told under no circumstances were they allowed to laugh. Right? They were not allowed to laugh when Michael Palin talked, because otherwise they would dock their pay. And so Michael Palin...
I guess I must be thinking of a rumor regarding the other scene.
Right.
Go on.
And so Michael Palin... This is a rumor. I'm not sure if it's confirmed or not. I haven't read if it is or not. But Michael Palin made it his mission to make sure that these extras
laughed their asses off.
Just lost their shit. So this scene was Michael Palin going out of his way to try and make everybody in the room laugh their ass off.
Get them to corpse.
Get them to corpse and send for the man. Anyways, it's a botchamania thing.
Well, that's why it went over my head.
Okay, so whenever corpsing is a thing in wrestling, it happens.
Corpsing is a thing in acting in general.
In acting in general, but especially in wrestling, it's notorious.
For context, corpsing is when a person playing a character
breaks
in a scene, generally a serious scene, ends up kind of breaking character, and
it's
unintentionally, but It's just that the situation they now find themselves is so
weird
that they can't help but react.
One of the best examples, I think, is Topher Grace in that 70s show whenever Red Foreman, like, fucking insults him. And Topher Grace can't help but have the shit-eating grin on his face. That's corpsing. And they keep it in because it totally fits his character. It's just one of those things where it's noticeable when you notice it. But in wrestling, there's a series called Botchamania, which is a YouTube series that showcases like wrestling fuck ups. You know,
hence the name, I suppose. Yeah.
And whenever somebody's caught corpsing, it was the long running joke that somebody's corpsing, send for the man, and the man is Macho Man, because there's a very famous corpsing scene in WCW back in the day where Macho Man runs through the locker room and he meets one of the women, I believe it was Tori Wilson, and he's having this serious freaking out, and she's laughing, and he fucking slaps her in the face and is like, fuck you, don't laugh, I'm being serious here. And so that's
another good example of corpsing is that one scene from that one Command and Conquer game with Tim Curry in it.
Oh yeah,
where he declared he's going to the one place uncorrupted by capitalism. Space.
And that was the best take, by the way.
Like you watch that scene, you can see the moment that he just realizes what he's saying is absolutely ridiculous and just starts smirking because he knows what he's going to say. It sounds ridiculous.
I love Tim Curry.
I do too.
It's gonna be a sad day when he dies.
Yeah.
So yeah, the whole scene is like, what's your dad's name?
Biggest Dickus.
No, not Biggest.
No, but it does lead to
at least
something Maximus.
Yeah.
And Pilate, he takes it seriously while his chief guard is like, I'm pretty sure that's a fake name because it sounds like a fake name. You know, like Biggest Dickus.
It's a fake name. You know, like Silius Sodius or Biggest Dickus.
What about Biggest Dickus?
Biggest Dickus? I have a good friend in Rome named Biggest Dickus. And one of the guards starts laughing, and he's like, take him away! Take him away!
Basically, this results in the whole scene breaking down, and Brian
gets away!
He's able to escape because nobody's paying attention to him anymore.
Brian takes a powder. He beats a hasty retreat, and it works! He gets away!
And he manages to rejoin with the Judean People's Front. Fuck, it was the People's Front of Judea, wasn't it?
It was.
Fuck!
Fuck! Go in the corner! Fuck! Go in the corner. You're about to be stoned to death, sir.
Fuck! The joke is I don't care what it's called.
It really doesn't matter anyways. But yeah, he makes it back to the group, and the group is fucking pissed. They're like, you're gonna bring the soldiers back! And what do you know? The soldiers show up. Fucking hell, like the guy guarding the door, he's like,
I'm old and nearly blind, and it takes me a while to answer my door. Old man things.
And he opens the door, soldiers fucking jump in, and they're looking around, and everybody except Brian is very poorly hidden. And they don't see anything, right? So they leave. And they're like, phew, oh, that was close. And Brian's hanging out in, like, a canopy. Like
the balcony?
Like a windowsill. And then the guards come back a second time.
Because they forgot to check the windowsill.
We forgot to check a spot. Nope, nobody's there. All right, see ya. And then they come back a third time, and they're like, one last spot. And so eventually Brian falls off, and
because his weight is a bit too much for it.
And he knocks out one of the
preachers that are preaching to the masses.
Yeah, he knocks out one of the guys proselytizing, and there's a bunch of guys who are like, oh, it's the end of the world if you don't listen, Judgment Day is coming, blah, 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 blah.
And because he knocked one of the guys out, he's like, shit, act like this is natural. This is not natural. Act like this is natural. So he just starts spouting off a bunch of random feel-goody type bullshit to make him sound like he's trying to preach, which goes well because the guards just completely bypass him.
Exactly.
But it does kind of blow up in his face ultimately because now he's drawn a crowd of people who are hanging on to his every word.
And who are like, what does that mean? What does what mean? What you just said doesn't mean anything. Hell, it can't mean nothing. It has to mean something.
And here is where the Catholic Church originated.
Exactly. Here's where a lot of, yeah. And he just fucking, god damn, and it just spirals. He
suddenly has a whole mob of people chasing after him, resulting in him losing a shoe, which then results in them all debating over what the significance of the lost shoe means.
And he also had, like, this vase that he had to haggle for.
And that's a good scene, too.
That's a good scene where the guy's like, no, fucking, you gotta learn how to haggle.
It's like, how much is it? It's, okay, fine, I'll pay that. No, you gotta haggle.
And
haggle.
And mind you, he's still being chased by the guards by this point. But yeah, so there's three groups, four groups.
Seven groups.
There's four groups that split off. One with the shoe, one with the vase, and I can't remember what the third one was. But then the fourth one, he's all by himself. So then he looks around and realizes he's by himself. So he's just like, alright, I guess I'll join one of the other groups. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that or not. It's the scene where they pick up the shoe and they start arguing over it. And he's like, let us just be blessed.
That is probably my favorite moment for pointing out just how ridiculous the various sects of Catholicism are. Because they're over-interpreting a random event as though it were godsend. Literal godsend. And it was just a guy who lost his shoe. Get over it.
That just reminded me of something.
And no, sans is not Ness.
That just reminded me of something our brother said earlier today that I just...
Well, put it out of your mind, please. I would rather not know.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't want to know. God.
Anyway.
Well, we won't talk about him. He's not worth talking about. And it's not Jekyll.
Yeah, no, Jekyll's cool.
Jekyll's cool.
Jekyll's still cool.
Pull the other one. So yeah, he goes to this fucking ditch. Right?
Okay,
and he jumps in, and there's this fucking naked guy who's been living in this ditch for fucking ever.
Hasn't said a word the entire time. And apparently Brian showing up has pissed him off so much he breaks his vow of silence.
I think he stepped on his fingers or something.
So, literally breaking the guy's vow of silence, and this dude is pissed.
And they're like, a miracle! They've made the mute talk again!
And this guy's just absolutely just like, no, fuck that guy.
And then they're like, look, a raspberry bush, or some sort of fruit bush, and it's like it doesn't grow in that type of weather, in the desert, and the hermit's like, no, that's my bush, get away from it. And everybody, yeah, they're interpreting a lot of like, sort of uncommon events as a miracle. That sounds about right for those days.
Sounds about right for these days.
Yeah. And so Brian is turned into the Messiah, whether he wants to or not.
But he does manage to escape.
He does manage to escape and get laid.
Yes.
He does get laid.
He meets back up with Judith and they bump uglies.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it is the next morning, as Brian is in the afterglow, that he decides to get some fresh air, opens up his window, and now
hello, Brian!
Jesus Christ! I don't think he says that, though.
I don't think he says that, but it would be hilarious if he did.
That was something he said in the previous movie.
Yeah. Jesus Christ! I warned you, didn't I? But oh, it was just a harmless Ranny, wasn't it? Sorry, I go into that tangent a lot whenever somebody screams Jesus Christ, because that's the one.
Bearing in mind that this is post-coitus, so Brian is stark naked.
And then, yeah, his mom shows up.
And first off, she wants to know who the fuck all those people out there are.
Who the fuck the woman is. And why is he naked? Get dressed, you fucking bum. We want to see Brian. He is the Messiah. He's not the Messiah. He's just a very naughty boy.
That was a good...
Now go away!
That was a good operetta, by the way.
Yeah.
For the record, it's not the Messiah. He's just a very naughty boy. An operatic reinterpretation of Life of Brian. Go check it out.
Yes. Quite. What? Oh, yes!
From the creators of Spamalot.
Yeah. It's an opera, yeah. I'm sorry, I zoned out for a second. Sounds like, yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. What? I literally zone out all the time. It happens. I'm pretty sure I have both ADHD and ADD. So, you know, I'm hyper focused on things, and then like a split second later I'm like, huh? What?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention for that entire 45 minutes you were talking. What?
I wasn't paying attention for that 5 seconds.
You're the guy that Kapoor Gabor's whole, would you like to hear that again, is intended for.
Yeah. Pretty much. Why do you think I watch the same videos all the time?
Because they're enjoyable?
They are, but I also like to hear them again because I forgot what the fuck they were talking about.
Admittedly, I'm kind of the same. But mostly because they're awesome.
So this is where the movie kind of gets a little foggy. You know, because, Ryan... Yeah, this is where the movie just kind of goes off the rails. And
I think we forgot the UFO scene.
There was the UFO scene.
At one point, while Brian is being chased by guards, he ends up climbing an unfinished tower and falls almost to his death until he lands in an alien spacecraft that just happens to be flying by. And there's that whole scene with him in the cockpit with some aliens who are just flying around, and he eventually gets deposited back on Earth, and that was a weird scene.
That was the only... I'm pretty sure that was the only Terry Gilliam scene in the entire movie.
Well, aside from the scenes in which Terry Gilliam is present.
Right.
Of course. It's definitely a very Terry Gilliam-esque scene, so...
You know what, that movie... Or that... This will sound weird. That scene kind of reminds me of Fear and Loathing. If that makes sense. It's very wacky. And it's very out there, and it...
So it's Terry Gilliam.
It's a very Terry Gilliam thing.
We really should watch some of his movies.
Yeah, but I really don't want to watch Fear and Loathing or Brazil again, even if they're good movies. They're the kind of movies you watch once, and then you're like, well, I watched it, never again.
Well, that's too bad, because I've never watched either of those.
Great.
Lovely.
I'm really gonna watch them again.
So yeah, that scene happened at some point. I can't remember when.
It was right after he escaped from Pontius Pilate. But he comes back to the People's Front of Judea, right? And they're like, oh, we can use him as propaganda, you know? And Brian's fucking just sick of this shit, so he runs away from them. Or he makes a hasty retreat, escapes from them, and then he gets caught again by the Romans. He just sort of accidentally wanders into them.
And this is where we reach the climax of the film, because it's all downhill for him at this point.
And of course, we meet the man himself, Big as Dickus. Oh my God.
And here we get a scene which kind of parodies the whole they released a murderer and not Jesus situation.
So the whole joke is, there's Pontius Pilate is speaking before the crowd, and they're making fun of his. They're making him say words,
say names that he knows he's going to screw up and lisp all over, because it's that time of year where the people get to decide which prisoner will get released. And so they're just giving him a bunch of made-up names just to get him to lisp. Judith shows up and tries to convince everybody to get Brian free. But by this point, Pilate has had enough and is like, fuck you! That's another fake name. You guys don't get a prisoner free.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and so, then Biggest Dickus comes in to speak.
And he also has a speech impediment.
I can't remember what his speech impediment.
I don't remember either.
It's not the, Pontius Pilate has a problem with saying R words. But, I can't remember what...
I can't remember either.
I think it was he had sort of a
more pronounced lisp. With S words.
It was a lisp with all the S words.
So Pilate has the lisp with the R words, and Biggest Dickus has a lisp with S word.
Pontius Pilate has the lisp with all the R words, because he cannot pronounce the words.
Biggest Dickus
has the big lisp with the S words.
The joke was I was doing the opposite.
Oh, yes, of course, okay.
It just didn't work out.
Anyway, so, eventually the crowd starts chanting, "Release Brian, release Brian." And so Pontius Pilate, the centurion's like, "We actually do have a prisoner named Brian."
Oh,
well, release Brian!
And at this point, Brian is...
he's taken up to the thing. Oh, there's the scene in the fucking...
Brian, at this point, Brian has been sentenced to be crucified, along with a whole bunch of other people, because it didn't happen to just Jesus, because this story is not fucking about Jesus. Get it through your goddamn head.
But, there's the scene with, the crucifix suppliers, right? And the
Take one on the left.
and there's the one guy who talks very slow and has, a stutter.
Oh, yeah. And another dude who has a different speech impediment.
And so the centurion shows up and he's like, have the prisoners been sent for crucifixion already? So the guy starts stuttering man, and the guy's like, never mind. And so after the guy leaves, he's like, so anyways, so anyways, I was talking to... they have normal speech, but they talk like idiots.
Let's see. In the line for crucifixions, there's this one cheeky dude who...
I'm not here for crucifixion, actually. I'm actually supposed to be released. Oh, you are? And they're both played by Eric Idle. No. One's Eric Idle, one's Michael Palin. You see what happens here? Whenever they're together, I can't fucking ever. I can't.
Even when they're literally in the same scene playing off each other.
Right.
Eric Idle talking to Eric Idle.
Eric Idle talking to Eric Idle. Eric Idle and Michael Palin have a very similar voice when they're acting certain characters, and it's very hard to tell them apart. Based on that. When Michael Palin's doing his gangster thing in Monty Python's Flying Circus, I can tell it's Michael Palin, because Eric Idle is always always the swaggedly smooth talking characters, and then Michael Palin's like, yeah, right, so we went down to the docks, mate, and he put a block on my head. fucking nailed the board to my head. Right? They have very different characters in Flying Circus. And in this one, they have just similar manners of speech. So it's very confusing. But the climax of the film is a parody of Spartacus. There's the famous...
Hold up! The dude first claims he's getting freedom.
Yeah.
But then he's like, no, not really.
I'm kidding. I'm
joking.
I'm here to get crucified. He's like, yes, right. Well, blah blah blah. And then there's the other scene where one of the prisoners with a crucifix falls down, and one of the civilians is like, "I'll help you. I'll help carry your crucifix." And so he gets mistaken for...
So the dude picks up the crucifix and is dragging it for the dude, but he gets mistaken as being the one crucified.
Yeah.
So the other dude hails it.
Yep.
And then we get a revisit of the dude who's strung up in the dungeon. Still complaining.
Oh, crucifixion! Well, ain't that just grand? I'd like to be crucified sometime. La-dee-da! So anyway, we get the parody of Spartacus. There's the famous...
Well, I think there's a lead up to it, because I think Brian and everybody else are all strung up on their crosses.
Yep.
And then Brian gets a bunch of visitors, including his mom, who is very upset with him. We get the Judean People's Front. Fuck! It's the People's Front of Judea. Fuck!
Yeah,
and they basically just congratulate him on his up and coming martyrdom.
And then there's the Judean Suicide Squad,
who have come to suicide.
They've come to commit suicide.
Apparently, they were part of a larger part of the movie that just got cut, and this is their one scene. So they just kind of come out of nowhere, completely at random.
I think it makes it far more hilarious.
Like, I do think that it's more hilarious knowing that they were supposed to have a larger scene, and then they just show up without any warning. And then Judith shows up, and she also congratulates Brian on his upcoming martyrdom.
But yeah, anyways, as I was saying...
Brian is distraught.
So anyways, as I was saying, so the scene is a parody of Spartacus, because the guy shows up, the centurion shows up. And for those of you who don't know what Spartacus is, it's a movie from the 1960s.
That got remade into a TV show for HBO.
I believe it was directed... I believe it was directed by Stanley Kubrick. I don't think it was.
Never seen it, so I don't know.
I might be wrong. But it is based on the real character Spartacus, who was a gladiator that led a revolt against Rome. And old man Crassus had to put him down. And for those of you who don't know who Crassus is, this is another sort of... This also ties into it. Crassus was a member of the first triumvirate with Pompey and Julius Caesar. And he died in Parthia, otherwise known as Iran. He had gold poured down his throat. Not a good way to go. Not a very good way to go.
So anyway, one of the centurions shows up
and he's like,
come to get Brian, because he's been let go.
I'm Brian! No, I'm Brian! I'm Brian! I'm Brian! It's
a cheeky dude who said freedom first. He responded to the whole Brian thing because Brian was too distracted with, everything else that he's just had to go through.
Right.
And so it's like, no, wait, I'm Brian! And then everybody else starts chiming in, and none of them got spared. I guess, because the cheeky guy's back up on the cross. Either that or he's a different character. I'm thinking he's the same character, though. Because he has the same speech.
So, Brian's left there to die, and it's just a miserable way to go. But it's not all bad. After all, some things in life are bad. They could really make you mad.
Other things just make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's gristle, don't grumble, give a whistle. And this'll make things turn out for the best. And copyright strike.
Fuck.
I'm surprised we got as far as we did.
And then, it's the other...
most famous part of this movie.
I'd say infamous scene of Monty Python and the Life of Brian, because fucking made people mad for whatever reason. They're like, what the fuck is this? This is the ending? And it's like, yeah, it's the ending. It's one of the most Monty Python endings ever.
Just a whole musical number of people crucified singing.
Yeah. Like, that's the movie, by the way. The movie ends on a happy note.
And I want that song to be played at my funeral.
Okay, sure, why not?
Why have everybody be sad? Be happy.
But yeah,
life sucks, but you're alive.
But
be
yeah,
happy about that.
It ends on a happy note, despite the fact that
despite the fact that Brian gets the bad ending, it's a cheerful conclusion, which is in contrast to the actual situation that's going on.
Yeah.
It's very Monty Python.
He's going to die slowly and horribly. But at least they'll be carrying a tune while they die. So yeah, that's the movie. And that took a while because we went on a lot of side tangents.
I think it didn't go on long enough.
What's
wrong? What the hell's wrong with you?
Your mom.
I was talking to myself. Come on.
Yeah, okay.
Come on, dude.
True.
Don't interrupt.
Did we ever...
So stupid.
Did we ever...
So stupid.
So yeah, 7.
Yeah, I'd give it a 7.
It's perfectly fine. It's got a few funny jokes, but other than that, it's...
I love the fact that it's a send-up of the Catholic religion and is incredibly on point about that. It's not mocking Jesus, though.
Yeah.
How many dislikes do you think this video's gonna get?
It's gonna get a lot of dislikes from...
Just from me!
Oh! No! Dude, we're gonna get banned from the Westboro Baptist Church? Wow, what a shame.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, they are terrible. There's a lot of institutions that are very, hateable.
They don't know how to take a joke.
What's a joke? Christianity's not a joke. Jesus Christ isn't a joke, son.
Honk honk!
Oh shit, it's Clown Jesus!
Better than Karate Jesus. He blew up my brother.
Oh my god! You know what that reminds me of? Gandhi's back with a vengeance!
I haven't seen that movie, but I have listened to the soundtrack. And the audio from that trailer is on there.
Gandhi 2! For those of you, is it Kentucky Fried Movie or is it?
No, it's UHF.
Yeah, UHF.
A movie starring Weird Al Yankovic.
And the whole premise is that it's a trailer for a movie starring Gandhi.
For context, what we're talking about is specifically the Gandhi 2 segment, which is a trailer for a fictional movie, Gandhi 2.
Yeah, it's for a fictional movie called Gandhi 2, starring Mahatma Gandhi, who, like, portrays his civilization character of just like, I'm gonna kill everybody!
Wasn't that actually a glitch? He was so... The character in the game is so pacifistic that if you piss him off, he just goes full on.
Well...
If that's...
So the story goes, it has not been confirmed. I'm pretty sure it's been debunked. But the idea is that Gandhi had a passive meter of 1, right?
Right.
Or it was either 1 or 0. And when a civilization turns to democracy, their peaceful or passiveness goes down by 2. So when he goes down by 2,
he becomes super aggressive.
Yeah, instead of going a -1 out of 10, it went 255 out of 10. And so the whole idea of like Nukem Gandhi, as we in the Civ community call him, he doesn't actually start wars because democracies can't start wars. If you start a war with Gandhi, he will use nukes.
But Tanner, U.S. has started many wars, and it's a democracy.
We're a republic, first off, not a democracy.
Well, we should be a democracy.
But
We're supposed to be a democracy.
But then we'd have rule by the stupid.
But we've already had rule by the stupid.
It would be even worse now. I'm just saying.
I mean, are you sure? Because last year was pretty fucked up.
It would be worse. If the people themselves, not their representatives, were allowed to choose their destiny, it would be a lot worse. Let's be honest. Florida would be a lot worse than it already is. Texas would be a lot worse off than it already is. Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. And I'm not saying anything for people who live down there. It's just everybody's stupid. I'm stupid. He's stupid. I'd rather not have stupid people run the country. We do vote in stupid people, though. And that's just sort of a fault of ours.
Play Raid Shadow Legends! This is not sponsored.
Whoa, this video is sponsored by Netflix. Whoa, watch any videos today on demand. Whoa, crazy. We're not sponsored.
We're not sponsored. Nobody would sponsor us, especially not after this video.
Also, fuck Netflix. Just saying. There's a lot of other better streaming services, and you can get more quality stuff. That said,
on the one hand, I kind of agree with you. What with them, having had a bunch of stuff and then taking it off randomly.
They used to have
But on the other hand, I did watch Gundam Hathaway on Netflix. So
Gundam used to have. This was I think 9 years ago. Netflix used to have so much anime.
I was really ready for you to say Gundam had.
No, Netflix had so much anime that I liked, and then they got rid of it, and it's like, fuck. And there was because mind you, I was like a teenager back then. Like, I was a kid bordering on a teenager back then, 8
And I guess Crunchyroll didn't exist.
Crunchyroll didn't exist. Crunchyroll still doesn't have shows I like. A lot of shows.
You don't like Fist of the North Star?
I like Fist of the North. Crunchyroll still doesn't have all the shows I want.
That's the modifier you needed.
There is a lot of shows. I believe it's Funimation has Clannad. The first season does not have After Story. I want to watch After Story again. I don't want to have to fucking delve. I don't want to have to delve through these goddamn fucking sites that might have fucking malware on them just to watch it. And I don't want to have to spend $50 just to get a DVD set, There's a couple of other shows.
Meanwhile, I am completely willing to lay down $50 for a DVD set.
Dude, I spent fucking...
If you can see where we're located in right now,
dude,
you would know that that's a true statement.
Dude, I don't want to spend money on DVDs unless they're cheaper. I spent fucking $20 on a Goya painting. That should tell you where my fucking priorities are. For those of you who don't know, Francisco Goya is a painter from the 19th century. 20th and... 18th and 19th century. He's the last classical painter, first modern painter, is what they call him. Anyway, recommendations.
I was going to recommend one, but apparently I've already done that, so...
I mean, if you want to recommend Overlord again, go ahead.
No, I've already... if I've already recommended it, I've already recommended it. I could probably check in the backlog after this goes out to see if I actually did. And if so, then I'll do it next time.
I mean, I've already recommended Nagatoro-san. Probably countless times. The anime's finally finished. For now, and I'm hoping it gets a season 2. You've recommended Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, haven't you?
Yep.
That's a thing you recommended. I recommended Komi.
I think I recommended Komi.
Yeah, one of
us definitely recommended.
I recommended it to you, and you probably recommended it to the people.
And Brian took that recommendation.
And is he enjoying it?
Yeah. He's got more volumes than I do.
Have I recommended Dot Hack?
No. No,
I
we
have
have not recommended anything .hack.
I recommend, if you are willing to put money down, I recommend getting the original .hack PlayStation 2 video games. They are well worth the money, well worth the time and effort, and just a bunch of fun.
You know, Sword Art Online, they stole that shit from .hack.
.hack is older and better than Sword Art Online. I'm just gonna call it like I sees it. I think Sword Art Online is fucking trash.
When I first found out about Sword Art Online, I was like, this is fucking .hack.
It really is.
It's so infuriating that Sword Art Online, despite basically ripping off .hack, became super popular to the point where now .hack characters are showing up in it to remind people that .hack exists.
It's a really sad state of affairs.
Yes, it very, very much is. For context, the .hack series is about an online role-playing game called The World, which is experiencing a number of glitches and rogue AI, which have resulted in some players losing consciousness and going into comas while playing the game. And the administration are trying to sweep it under the rug because they're trying to solve the problem behind the scenes. And the situation just gets even more worse. That it ultimately ends up falling to one character who just randomly gets a special item from a specific AI. And it's up to him and his team to save the world. And you play as that character. Kite.
Yeah.
And this was like a huge multimedia franchise at the time. Like, you had not only the games, but the games came with OVAs that took place between events, but from the perspective of the outside real world. Then you had a prequel anime in .hack Sign, which is really good. I mean, I don't think it's spectacular, but it is really good. It had a sequel manga that got adapted into an anime that decided to completely change the plot halfway through. What? You had the sequel games, .hack GU, and their prequel anime, Roots.
The series is full of fucking lore. There's a whole bunch of events that sort of spiraled into one another. There's the fucking, what is it?
The Legend of the Twilight, or not the Legend of the Twilight, the Epitaph of Twilight. Which is this online poem that is viewed with some reverence within the series. Mostly because nobody can find a complete copy because it was online on a site you couldn't copy from before online kind of went to the shit can because of a computer virus.
Yeah, so I can't remember what the virus was called.
Twilight of the Gods.
Yeah.
Or at least the incident was called the Twilight of the
So
Gods.
think of, what's an analogous virus today?
I Love You virus? I mean, that's the only one that springs to mind.
Yeah.
I'm not really up on my computer virus lore.
No, think... Okay, there was a virus that the CIA had developed, a computer virus that the CIA had developed, and they somehow transplanted it into one of Iran's, like, computers for nuclear testing. And it fucked up the computer so bad that, like, I believe their research was set back by years. And it got into their databases and just fucked everything up.
And now imagine that on a global scale.
Yeah, imagine that on 100 million computers all at once.
Literally the Twilight of the Gods, well, figuratively the Twilight of the Gods, if internet's counted as gods.
Yeah, so, like, imagine Windows, Apple, and Linux.
All completely worthless and vulnerable to the virus.
Exactly.
But one operating system managed to come out on top.
Ultimate.
Ultimate.
Ultimate? I thought it was always Alt-Limit.
Ultimate.
Learn something new every day.
It's not spelled with the U. Like ultimate?
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's spelled with an A.
Yeah, I always thought there was an L in there.
There is. Ultimate.
You know what I mean. I'm sorry. I'm very tired. But yeah, .hack I remember every time I wanted to play .hack when I was a kid, and you're like, oh no, sure you can play. You gotta read the books first. I was like, you fucking asshole.
I was kind of an asshole.
I'm like, I just want to play the games.
I'm the kind of asshole who would put himself through that kind of shit. It's like, I want to play this game, but first let me read up on all of the lore that took place first.
And
I'm still like that.
See, and the thing with the game, the PS2 games, is you don't really need to.
You don't, admittedly.
It fucking tells you what happens. It literally,
or at least the stuff that you need to know for the game.
It basically tells you, oh yeah, Twilight of the Gods, blah blah blah. You know, all computers went down here. I believe it was like, oh yeah, it's the 5th or 10th anniversary of Ultimate.
Roughly, yeah.
Or reaches 100 million.
And the situation had gotten so much, and Ultimate had gotten so much control as an operating system that really it was the only thing that was allowed to be used.
It became a monopoly, basically.
Yeah. So you kind of had to. I mean, this isn't like a corporate story or even really a tech story. This is all the stuff that happened well before .hack to kind of give you an idea of the situation that's going on.
And what was it? At the beginning of the game, it was like the world reaches how many millions of users? I believe it was like. What was it?
I want to say it was like billions. I don't remember the
exact. No, it wasn't billions. I think it was like.
Are you sure?
I think it was like 10 million.
It was definitely the single most popular online game.
Think of
mostly because it was probably the only online game.
Yeah, think of World of Warcraft circa 2009. That's how popular.
Yeah.
That's how popular it was. And World of Warcraft had what? 10, also,
I don't know.
I think World of Warcraft had 100 million.
When World of Warcraft came out, I was like, oh yeah, no, this is .hack. Shit. Shit, we're gonna have net problems soon.
I remember, God. You know, I've always wanted to get into World of Warcraft, but the biggest problem is, like, having to deal with online players.
I tried to get into World of Warcraft, and I can honestly say that MMORPGs are just not my thing.
I like Guild Wars.
I like .hack, which is a simulated MMO, but...
I like Guild Wars. Guild Wars is a heck of a time, even though I mostly stick to playing with my friends. Mostly because it sort of streamlines and fixes a lot of problems MMORPGs have. So for example, this is another side tangent. For example, with Guild Wars 2, when you level up to a certain point that's higher than the level, higher than the area, it will automatically level you down. Not level you down. It will basically nerf you to being about as good as the enemies in that area. That's what it does. So saying like, oh, you're a level 50 and you walk into a level 5 area. Congrats, you've been bumped down to level 5 now.
Is that like a temporary?
Temporarily until you go into an area with a higher...
that makes sense.
Higher skill floor.
I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, .hack. It has a fantastical fantasy RPG setting, while also being set in a science fiction
and this is
techno
and the games are set like early in the series, right? There's
they're set after Sign for sure, which is pretty early on in the story. But the GU stuff came out after they decided to add more story.
And basically, any game that's set after the PS2 games, Kite is basically a messiah to anybody playing the world. Cause
he kind of earned it?
Because he kind of fucking is. So, long story short, you play as Kite, your real name is...
Whatever you decide to put in. You are invited to play the game by your friend from school, who in the game is named Orca.
I believe his real name is Shugo.
Yasuhiko.
Yeah, Yasuhiko, but then he's like, don't call me that.
Shugo is a completely different character.
Right. Yeah, Yasuhiko, and he's like, don't call me that, I'm Orca.
And he's famous for having done something that gets explained in one of the books, but they do bring it up a lot.
I think Orca's famous for, like, breaking a speed record.
No, he's famous for being a member of a two-man team that defeated really, really hard boss.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Him and Balmung. Balmung's cool. Balmung's a really cool character.
I do like his character development. He starts off as kind of a jerk because he thinks you're being a malicious hacker because of the stuff that's going on. But once he finds out that you were friends with his friend, he starts to soften up. And once he realizes, oh, you're just trying to save the world just like I am. Okay, we're on the same side.
Yeah,
Sorry for all the hostility.
And why are we trying to save the world? So what happens is Orca brings us to like
a beginner place to just kind of, because you're a new character. This is your first time in an RPG. You gotta learn the stuff.
He shows you around, and then like shit goes tits up real fast.
Because you see this like ghostly girl being chased by a dude with like this like stone thing with a cross.
Is her name Aria? I think. Aura.
And then you encounter this stone creature, which attacks Orca and leaves Yasuhiko in a coma. And Kite ends up being entrusted with some installation book that gives him a bracelet that allows him to hack monsters.
And so, like...
And now it's up to Kite to try and figure out just what the fuck is going on in the world and try and save his friend.
And mind you, I still haven't beaten the 4th game.
It's a good game.
It's a good game. It's a great 4-pair of series.
There is, like, literally so much replay potential because of all the random dungeons you could go to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think at one point I had set it upon myself to try and visit every single one of them.
How far'd you get? Not very.
Fuck you!
That's what I figured.
Fuck you, that's hard! I never did! Because there's no actual reason to, outside of just doing it.
Yeah,
But the option is there.
And you meet up with like a very cool cast of characters.
You get Black Rose, who becomes his go-to partner.
Black Rose, who is voiced by fuck.
Yeah, she's got her whole stuff going on, as explained in some of the books that are a bit contradictory to the games. But long story short, she's trying to save her brother, who also got put into a coma while playing the game.
And she and Kite are kind
of a couple, as evidenced by like the 4th game where you get this other character to join you, and the missions always require you to have both her and Black Rose together, and definitely love triangle elements.
I'm pretty sure in later story arcs it's confirmed.
I don't know. I never actually got that far.
Yeah, I'm not like the games. I'm talking. Like,
I know. I haven't gotten that far.
I think in other canon stuff, they're confirmed to at least be dating. So.
I know that Kite and one of the optional characters, Natsume, have at least met.
Yeah.
Because that's implied in an email chain in one of the games.
Fucking Natsume. Fuck. There's a reason that the first game has a T rating.
It's because they kind of reference Playboy in one of the news reports.
Yeah.
Although some people think that Natsume's introduction
mission that's the one.
But basically what happens is you go on the message board of the game and learn that this one player is trying to find a specific weapon in a dungeon that ends up being too hard for the player. So you end up going into the dungeon and getting the item they were looking for, and she asks you if she can have it, and if you agree to it, it's like, well, oh, thank you, but I don't have anything to give you in return except maybe myself. To which Kai's like, what?
What?
Like, I mean, I'll join your party or what?
Oh! Yeah, sure!
Oh! And my favorite scene in the entire series is when you're with this spellcaster character named Mistral, who is playing the game as a treasure hunter.
I burned.
No. And then you get to this one point in the dungeon, and then all of a sudden...
Oh, man.
I burned dinner. Like, she just locks up and stares at a wall after going, damn it! And so Kite's like, what? 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 I burned dinner.
These characters are great. Yeah, Black Rose is voiced by the voice actress of Haruhi Suzumiya. So every time that happens, and she also voices Akane Akane from Danganronpa 2. So every time I hear her voice...
Okay, yeah, good thing you specified, because I know like two or three Akanes.
And every time I hear her voice, I'm just like, God fucking damn it! Because, I don't know if I've said this or not. Haruhi Suzumiya is my favorite anime of all time.
Mine's Miss Kobayashi.
Like fucking bar none. It's one of the first ones I ever watched. And, like, you actually got me into it.
Yes.
You had the first DVD.
And I fell out of it.
And I'm like, fucking gimme! God, I love that show. I go back to it every so often. It's so dumb. And it really... it's sort of one of the first slice-of-life animes that sort of codified a lot of the tropes.
Which is weird because the whole idea is that it's incredibly bizarre
yes.
when you actually know what's going on.
Yes.
And yet it still manages to be slice-of-lifey.
So every time I hear that voice actress, in my head I'm like, fuck. Damn it. Why is she here?
Yeah, fuck, we could do like a whole podcast episode just talking about .hack. There's so much to it.
It's
like we've barely scratched the surface.
I would
with the series.
See. I've tried to start recording episodes of me playing .hack, but at the same time I'm like, fuck, man.
For context, to get the full story of just the games, you gotta play all 4 games.
You gotta play.
There are 4 full games to explain this story. That's how lengthy this story is.
And they ain't short. They're like 40 hours.
Yeah.
And then some. Because there are certain areas that are restricted because you've got to get certain shit for it. Like, they're locked by, like, certain keys.
So you gotta get, like, these kind of data keys from
specific monsters.
Oh, not necessarily specific monsters outside of some instances, but, yeah, it's... You gotta do quite a bit of extra legwork.
Yeah, I can never get, like, for the longest time, I've never been able to get past Dune Laurier, which is the second hometown. Yeah, because there's a bunch of servers.
Each one having, like, an infinite number of playable areas.
Yeah.
Which is why there's so much goddamn replayability in that game, if you go for it.
And yeah, and each server has, like, a hometown that you sort of stop at and pick up shit. And Dune Laurier is the Alpine city.
You know what I fucking hate? I fucking hate how the NPC characters that you have in your party only take, like, the barest of essentials.
Oh, yeah! God damn.
Like, you're a spellcaster, right? Why don't you have more spellcasting restorative? I need you to fucking heal me and you're always out of mana. God damn it. Like, that is it.
Also, another great thing about .hack, like the grunties.
The grunties.
The grunties are the best.
Raising the grunties, racing the grunties.
So, you know, those of you who don't know what grunties are, think Chow from Sonic Adventure 2.
Except that you could ride them.
Except you could ride them, and they're fucking awesome, and they talk.
Sometimes you gotta get, like, give them, like, very specific items to get them to evolve into specific grunties.
Every time I get the fucking mustachioed one, I get the Hispanic one all the fucking time. There's different types of grunties, and I
think you're thinking of, like, the default grunty. Like, if you don't know how to get a specific grunty and you try anything, you'll just get that one specific grunty.
I always get the fucking Hispanic grunty. He's like, never mind, no.
He might be French, but whatever.
Might be French,
maybe
might
I'm mistaking him for Monsieur.
Yeah, Monsieur.
That's probably what I'm
Monsieur. I always get Monsieur.
Monsieur is like this spring creature.
Oh,
like
yeah.
It looks like a drop of water or tear or whatever. It's like a bizarre slime from the Dragon Quest.
Did you drop the golden axe or the silver axe? Neither. Ah, good choice. Well, I better give this back to you then. And you get you either get an upgraded item or a downgraded item.
Or if you put in a rare item, you just get the item back and 2 more and a gold axe and silver axe. because he can't upgrade or degrade the item.
I should just point out the gold axe and the silver axe are kind of pointless unless you're selling them.
I know, but they are kind of useful for trading with specific NPCs.
Right.
Oh, the fact that there are a bunch of NPCs in the game that you encounter, you can't get them in your party, but there are a specific set of NPCs that are named after characters from other games made by the same company. And it's something you could completely overlook because they don't call attention to it. The two games specifically are Tail Concerto, which I own, and Silent Bomber, which I don't. Tail Concerto was pretty fun.
Yeah, shit's good.
Like, we've gone on for like a half hour just talking about Dot Hack.
It's a good game. It's a good.
That should give you a good indicator as to how highly we think of this series.
Dot Hack is such a good series, and it's sad that it's really fallen by the wayside. Especially
because Sword Art Online gets its cock sucked by the entire community, despite not even being that original.
It's not even that good. I don't know what's even good about it.
I guess the sex scene in one of the books or something? What the fuck? A really descriptive sex scene. Like, what the hell?
Why?
Good question!
Sure. You know what? I think people like Sword Art Online so much because they have never seen anything like it.
Except Dot Hack existed, huh?
But not a lot of people had seen Dot Hack.
And that's a tragedy.
Dot Hack is really one of those niche products.
Sword Art Online was a ripoff that took off. It's the Oreo to Dot Hack's Hydrox.
No, you know what it is?
Or Nirvana to the Pixies.
See, okay, so here's the thing. Dot Hack focused on telling a good story. Sword Art Online focused on what's the word?
Cool shit?
No, not that. What's the word? Focusing on the lowest common denominator. That's the difference between the two. Dot Hack is a far better story than Sword Art Online ever will be. Nobody can ever argue that with me. You know, that reminds me.
Shit, I keep thinking about. I don't want to spoil things for Dot Hack, but the lead villain of Dot Hack has a motivation that makes complete sense once you find it out.
And he's not even like a villain.
Only in the technical sense are they a villain.
They're an antagonist.
But the reason that they're antagonistic makes complete sense, and I'm not going to say anything more. Just play the goddamn games. What are you talking about?
Right? Is that was the villain's one?
No, that guy isn't even a villain. He just made the game because she died before he get into it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, the villain is somebody else.
There's a character. There's the maker of the game who.
This series has so much goddamn lore that is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I tell you what.
Like, it is an epic game. It is an epic tale.
The game is basically one big epic.
Spread across 4 discs because there's just that much content. And then Sword Art Online is like, hey, can I copy your homework?
Fine.
What do you mean Dot Hack got an F?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I didn't cheat. He copied me.
I'm the winner. I'm the one who wins. It's a Game Grumps reference.
Okay. I don't watch, but that's just because it's not really my thing.
I'm the Game Boy. I'm the one who wins. Yeah, Dot Hack. Good shit. Should probably wrap this up.
Why? We're talking about Dot Hack. You're right, we probably should just, save that for, a whole other video.
Because Dot Hack is our Waterloo. If we go into it now, we'll never...
You're right, we should just have one separate video that is completely spoilerful. Just so that we can talk about how awesome that... Don't worry about that. I've got a sticky note just sitting on my desk that just happens to have the name Waterloo on it. Like, it's pure chance that that's there.
That's where I pulled it from. I was like, it's our Waterloo. If we talk about it now, there's no turning back.
So, I guess that's going to be a topic for another podcast.
We should talk more about video games.
We should.
There's a lot more discussion. Like, Onimusha is a pretty interesting one I'd be able to talk about.
We should definitely dedicate some future ones to talking about games.
Yeah.
Rather than movies.
Even books. Even, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
A couple of stories there I'd be interested in talking about. But with that said, you know... It's always a shame to say farewell.
Except in this instance, bye, bitches!
And in the words of the late, great William Shakespeare, parting is such sweet sorrow, we bid you adieu.
Fun fact, William Shakespeare wrote a story in which a lady gets knocked up by some fuckheads, and then her dad feeds those fuckheads to their own father. Peace out, bitches!
Oh yeah, Titus Andronicus.
Yes!
No! Speaking of Titus Andronicus, I just want to throw this out there. William Shakespeare has one of the first your mother jokes. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not specifically, but it does sound familiar.
It is from the play Titus Andronicus. There is a
That story is fucked up. I just read the summary on Wikipedia. I was like, fuck that shit.
Not only do they rape her, they fucking cut out her tongue.
Yeah, so that she doesn't rat on them.
So she doesn't rat on them.
Her dad still finds out.
And her dad, because she takes a stick. Because I think she had both her hands cut off, too. And so she fucking takes a stick and writes their names. But anyway, so there is a black character in the book, in the play. All right, he just happens to be black, and he was like a servant or whatever, and he fucks one of these characters' moms, like he literally fucks her. And so the guy finds out, and he's like, "Cruel villain, thou hast done shame unto our mother." And then he's like, "Cruel villain, I have done thy mother." And he's like, "Oh! Oh!" Eventually, I think he gets her pregnant, and he gets beheaded. So
that sounds about right for that story.
Yeah. Yep.
That is a really fucked up story.
I have a hard time.
For anybody who only knows him from like Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet, Titus Andronicus, it's really fucked up.
Fuck, even Hamlet's kind of fucked up.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy, Hamlet. You know, to be or not to be, that is literally a speech on suicide. He's debating whether he should kill himself.
And he does not hold his skull when he's doing that.
No. No, he does not. I don't know.
That's Macbeth, isn't it?
No, I don't even know where the skull comes from.
It's from that Yorick scene from one of them. It's either Macbeth or Hamlet.
I believe
where he's just ruminating on the fact that he's holding the skull of a
I'm pretty sure it is Hamlet. Because Macbeth is about the King Macbeth killing his king and becoming king for himself, and then guilt kind of sort of gets driven mad over the guilt of it.
Yeah, I don't read a whole lot of Shakespeare.
I think that's also where double boil in trouble
sounds about right.
Comes from. Shakespeare's God. Shakespeare is a fucking god.
Yeah, this went on way longer than I had totally intended on just piecing out at that with that mic drop about Titus Andronicus and just
yeah, but okay, we're not done yet. We're not quite done yet here.
Apparently,
we gotta talk about a little bit about Shakespeare.
Sorry to people who zoned out by this point.
So you know, if you remember reading Shakespeare in school and thinking it was boring. You're right. It's not meant to be read. It's meant to be performed.
Yeah, the version of Romeo and Juliet I read was the play version.
Right. And
good story.
Honestly, and this is just more of a
I think we were supposed to have been performing it in the class, but I was a little shithead.
See,
So
I
just
would have loved. This is more of a critique of like of teaching in schools. Is when you're teaching Shakespeare, it's not meant to be read because Shakespeare's plays were written for people who could not read. If that makes sense, they were meant to be performed for people who could not read, so they were meant to be digestible performance arts, where where they would use their voice and.
Isn't that kind of ironic, though, that he made up a bunch of words?
Yes. Oh, yeah. He
made up so much words.
And speaking of plays, I wish that we could do that we could have done in school. I wish we did Julius Caesar, because Mark Antony's speech to the people, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I've come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do, long live after them. All the good are often interred with the bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you that Caesar was ambitious, and if it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus, have I come to Caesar's funeral, for he is an honorable man, as are they all honorable men.
Where am I?
I can remember that whole speech from top to bottom.
And here I have trouble remembering what Domon says when he uses his shining finger.
Shining a finger!
That's it.
Yeah.
No, the whole speech he does right before it.
See, all I remember is him getting into the tight spandex, and he's just,
I guess at that point you kind of zone out and just enjoy it, because man in tight spandex.
Fucking man, Domon Kashi.
But we've already talked about G Gundam.
We've talked about G Gundam. It's fucking awesome. Watch it. Long story short, Shakespeare should be experienced, not read. That's kind of the point. So with that in mind, I think it's finally time to bring things to an end.
Finally.
Fuck you. Maybe
I'm the audience surrogate at this point.
Maybe if you hadn't fucking dropped the Titus Andronicus bit.
Yeah, that was really kind of my fault. Sorry.
I wouldn't have...
Fuck you, Lucas.
Yeah, fuck you.
ProtoMet.
Fuck you,
Fuck you, ProtoMet.
Fuck you, ProtoMet.
Fuck you, ProtoMet.
You fucking... This fucking loser.
You couldn't even come up with anything to recommend. You just piggybacked off somebody else, loser.
I mean, he did come up with something to recommend. He just wasn't sure if he had already recommended it.
Yeah. And I was kind of scrambling up to the last minute for anything else.
So, with that said, au revoir, friends. We'll see you at the next ProtoBalls talk, probably in 2 months' time, knowing our schedules.
Well, at this rate, it'll be 3.
Yep. Alrighty. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.